Welcome to another episode of The Everyday Disciple. I'm your host, Dr. Mondonico Williams. I've been talking about prayer a lot lately, and you can find those episodes in the link below. Please check them out. Also, if you like what you're hearing, please hit the like button and subscribe. In this episode, I'm going to show you what not to do when you pray. Are you ready? Are you ready to learn more about being an everyday disciple? Sit down and let me talk to you for a few minutes. Prayer is one of the most important spiritual disciplines for all Jesus pursuers. So when you pray, don't be like the hypocrites. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 5, Jesus says, "And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward." In the Jewish culture, prayer was always appropriate. They had set times to pray. These prayer meetings and prayer times were in the morning, in the noon, and in the evening. What would happen was some of them would stand and pray in the synagogue and in the streets so that people could hear them and speak of how religious they were. You know anybody like that? You know any super religious people? You know, they can quote the entire King James version of the Bible. Well, at least that's what they make you think they can do. They can talk till they're blue in the face about the 5 points of Calvinism and Arminianism. You know, they can talk to you about the hypostatic union. Well, maybe I went too far. These people do this for people to say how great of a religious person they are. They don't do it for God's glory, although they'll tell you that. Jesus calls these kind of people hypocrites. The Bible is written in Hebrew, Greek, and some Aramaic. Hypocrites in the original language means pretender. This Greek word originally was used of an actor who played a role. It pictures someone putting on a mask to play a role and then taking it off and putting on another mask to play another role. We recognize these people as those who appear to be one thing, but they are really the opposite. You know, they pretend to be good, but they're really bad. Jesus said, don't be like the hypocrite. Don't be parading around pretending to be something you're not. If you are doing this, then you got your reward. You got exactly what you were looking for. Praise of people. By the way, if you're not a Christ pursuer, if you're not a Christian, don't allow these hypocrites to push you away from getting to know Jesus, because they don't belong to Jesus. So don't let them push you away. The first thing Jesus says is when you pray, don't be like the hypocrites. Second thing he says is when you pray, don't use empty phrases. Matthew chapter 6 verse 7 says this, "And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him." In verse 5, Jesus says, don't be like the hypocrites when you pray. Here in verse 7, he shifts and goes to the opposite end of the spectrum. He says, do not heap up empty phrases. This is an interesting contrast. The word translated Gentile here in our text also can be translated as heathen or pagan. These people were not descendants of Abraham. You can learn about Abraham in Genesis chapter 12. So don't be like the hypocrites. Don't be like the heathens. What is Jesus saying? Because there's certainly a correlation between the heathen and the hypocrite. The correlation between them is this: they both have the wrong heart and the wrong intent. There's no sincerity in the heart of the hypocrite or the heathen. The hypocrite prays loud for men to see. The heathens pray for false gods to see. As Jesus pursuers, we know that neither a man nor a false god has the ability to answer any prayer. There's no sincerity in the heart of the hypocrite or the heathen. Loud prayer and babbling is vain repetition because there's no sincere desire of the heart to seek the will of God or even to do the will of God. Let's have a self-examination test. Are you a hypocrite? Are you a heathen? Do you know a hypocrite or a heathen? Those type of people do not understand the way to pray. Jesus says, do not be a crowd pleaser. Don't be parading around like you're at Mardi Gras. Don't be mama say, mama sa, mama sa, musa. Mama say, mama sa, mama sa, musa. The first thing Jesus says is when you pray, don't parade around like the hypocrites or like you're at Mardi Gras. Second thing he says is when you pray, don't use empty phrases. And the third thing he says is this: when you pray, keep it private. In verse 6, he says this: but when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Translation: keep it on the down low. In the original urban language dictionary, this is a way of saying keep something very secret, especially in the realm of personal relationships. Keep it quiet. Don't be telling everybody your business. Okay? How many of you have a personal relationship with the Lord? If you do, you want to pay close attention to what he says in verse 6. He says, go to your room, shut the door, and talk to your Father in private. I love all three of our kids. One of the things I appreciate about them is they are not afraid to express their thoughts, hurts, or frustrations. When my son was very young, he would always come to me when he had an issue. He would say, Dad, we need to have a men's club meeting. This meant he didn't want the females in our home to know what he had on his heart and on his mind. So we would go into my office, shut the door, and I tell you, he would let me have it. We need to be like Kylan. We need to go into our room, shut the door, and just let God have it. I mean, tell him how you really feel in private. First thing Jesus says is when you pray, don't parade around like the hypocrites. Second thing he says is when you pray, don't use empty phrases. And the third thing he says is this: keep it private. Well, I'm out of time again. Check back with me next week for another episode of the Everyday Disciple. If you like what you're hearing, tell somebody. Share this video, like this video, comment on this video. And when you subscribe to my channel, you'll get the latest episodes. Man, let YouTube know you like this station. I don't know how you do that, but tell somebody. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers because we want to get this message out. Now it's time for you to become an everyday disciple. Peace.